You found it.
You found it.
Citizen 93.7 FM. Abuja.
This is 93.7 Citizen FM. Abuja.
The time is 6 o'clock. Welcome to Citizen FM News. First, the highlight of our top stories. Court declines application by DSS to order arrest of CBN governor. Senate confirms appointment of Loretta Onochie as NDDC chairman. U.S. panel calls for insurrection charges against Trump. A warm welcome to the news. I am Didi Eno. The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, has declined an application by the Department of State Services to arrest and to detain the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. Justice Soho, while declining the motion ex parte filed by an applicant in the absence of the respondent, said the secret police did not provide any concrete evidence to substantiate its claim that Emefiele was involved in terrorism financing and economic crimes. At the proceeding, the judge noted that the name of the respondent was given simply as Godwin Emefiele without a material disclosure that is the same person as the CBN governor. Justice Soho therefore refused to entertain the suit until credible evidence is brought before the court as to the reason why the court should grant the request. The move by the DSS comes after the recent controversial decisions of the CBN to redesign the 200 Nairas, 500 Nairas and 1,000 Naira notes as part of measures to reduce the quantity of cash outside of its control and to also discourage certain criminal activities such as kidnapping for ransom. And once again, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has failed to appear before the House of Representatives on Tuesday over the Apex Bank's recent policy on cash withdrawals. Following a letter last Thursday telling the lawmakers that he was in the United States on an important assignment, Emefiele sent another letter stating that he was still outside the country. The House has resolved that he should appear on Thursday. The House of Representatives first summoned the CBN governor on December 8, ordering the suspension of cash withdrawal limits by the Apex Bank after a resolution during plenary. And this came after the CBN 2 weeks ago issued a circular ordering deposit money banks and other financial institutions to ensure that weekly over-the-counter cash withdrawals by individuals and corporate entities do not exceed 100,000 Naira and 500,000 Naira, respectively. And in related matters, the World Bank has warned that the time and short transition period of the redesigning of the Naira notes will have a negative impact on economic activities and, in particular, the poorest households. The redesigned 200 Naira, 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira notes came into circulation on Thursday, December 15th, while the old ones will cease to be legal tender from January 31 next year. The World Bank, in its latest Nigeria Development Update, December 2022, agreed with the Central Bank of Nigeria that the need to redesign the nation's currency is overdue, noting that the Naira has not been redesigned for over 2 decades. It, however, noted that international experience, such as policy, when rapidly implemented, generate significant short-term cost, especially on small businesses and poor households. And away from that, the Senate has confirmed the nomination of Loretta Onochie, a special assistant on social media to President Muhammadu Buhari, and 12 others as chairman and board members of the Niger Delta Development Commission. Both the Senate and House of Representatives committees on Niger Delta had screened Onochie on Thursday, alongside 13 others for the NDDC board roles. President Buhari had written to the Senate requesting the upper chamber to confirm the appointment of the chairman and members of the commission's board in accordance with the provisions of the NDDC Act. And before international stories, the chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has decried the negative role of money in elections, saying its deployment destroys the basis of democratic elections. Yakubu raised this concern at a stakeholders summit on addressing the influence of money in the 2023 general elections. The INEC boss said it renders the emergence of the right candidates for positions extremely difficult. It undermines fair electoral adjudication and destroys the professional and independent conduct of INEC officials and other public agencies involved in elections. And now to news on the foreign scene. The House Committee investigating the January 6 insurrection voted during its final public meeting on Monday to refer former President Donald Trump to the Department of Justice on at least 4 criminal charges. The committee also released an executive summary of its final report after approving it in its Monday's meeting. The full report will come out on Wednesday, marking the end of the panel's expansive probe into the riot. While referrals will largely be symbolic in nature, committee members stressed the move serves as a way to document their views. Attorney General Mary Garland will make the ultimate call on charging decisions.
That more than sufficient evidence exists for a criminal referral of former President Trump for assisting or aiding and comforting those at the Capitol who engaged in a violent attack on the United States. The committee has developed significant evidence that President Trump intended to disrupt the peaceful transition of power under our Constitution. He believes that more than sufficient evidence exists for a criminal referral of former President Trump for assisting or aiding and comforting those at the Capitol who engaged in a violent attack on the United States. The committee has developed significant evidence that President Trump intended to disrupt the peaceful transition of power under our Constitution. The complete factual basis for this referral is set forth in detail throughout our report.
President Trump lit the flame. He poured gasoline on the fire and sat by in the White House dining room for hours watching the fire burn. And today, he still continues to fan those flames.
And 9 months into Russia's war in Ukraine, President Vladimir Putin has admitted that the situation in 4 occupied territories in Ukraine's east and south is extremely complicated, a rare window into the challenges that Moscow faces in areas it has attempted to illegally annex. In a recorded statement to mark a holiday for Russia's security workers, released by the Kremlin on Tuesday, Putin noted that difficult tasks that security services face in Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. Russia claimed control over the regions after sham referendums in September, widely slammed by Kiev and Western governments by violating international laws. Russia has struggled with setbacks in these areas from the start. Moscow's forces were not in full control of the territories when they were rubber-stamped as part of the Russian Federation. Just weeks after illegally annexing Kherson, Ukraine reclaimed its regional capital with the same name, liberating about 10,000 square kilometers of land and moving its Western-supplied artillery within range of Crimea.
Must be intensified through the border services and the Federal Security Service. The state border is the most important key point in the country's security, so it must be protected, and any attempts to violate it must be thwarted quickly and effectively using the forces and means we have at our disposal, including mobile action units and special forces. The situation in the self-proclaimed Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics and in the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions is extremely difficult. But people living there, Russian citizens, hold out hope for you, for your protection. It is your duty to do everything necessary to ensure their safety and respect their rights and freedoms as much as possible.
And also other stories, the United States accused UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres of apparently yielding to Russian threats and not sending officials to Ukraine to inspect drones used by Russia that Washington and others say were supplied by Iran. Russia has denied its forces use Iranian drones in Ukraine and argues that there is no mandate for UN officials to travel to Kiev to investigate the origin of the drones. Iran has acknowledged it had supplied Moscow with drones, but said that they were sent before Russia invaded its neighbor in February. Britain, France, Germany, the United States, and Ukraine say the supply of Iranian-made drones to Russia violates a 2015 UN Security Council resolution enshrining the Iran nuclear deal. They want Guterres to send officials to Kiev to Russia's UN ambassador, Vasily Nambenzia. They told the Security Council on Monday that UN officials should not bow to pressure from Western councils and countries, and that any result in this pseudo-investigation are null and void.
The European Union is indeed extremely worried about Iran's military support to Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, including through the deliveries of drones. The EU will continue to respond to this as necessary, not least because it is also affecting the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2231. On the 12th of December last, the Council of the European Union recalled that any transfer of certain combat drones and missiles to and from Iran without prior permission by the UN Security Council is in violation of Resolution 2231.
Russia first started using Iranian drones toward the end of last summer. Ukraine duly reported the violation to the United Nations. Other countries, including the United States, have since supplied the UN with additional information and analysis regarding this violation. We regret that the UN has not moved to carry out a normal investigation of this reported violation.
Iran's UN ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani said Iran has not transferred to Russia any items prohibited by the Security Council. He also said Iranian drones supplied to Russia before February were not banned by the Council and have not been transferred for use in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. He described the accusations as baseless and termed them as an attempt to divert attention from the Western states' transfer of massive amounts of advanced sophisticated weaponry to Ukraine in order to prolong the conflict.
An issue that has nothing to do with restoration with the JCPOA, which Western colleagues are attempting to drum up. The alleged deliveries by Iran of drones to the Russian Federation for use in Ukraine. These allegations are patently concocted and false. We are well aware of the fact that representatives of Kiev still have been unable to provide Tehran bilaterally any documentation to corroborate the use by Russian military personnel of Iranian origin drones. Despite this, the US believes it is possible on the basis of their fabrications to baselessly drag the UN Secretariat into this and impose sanctions against both Russian and Iranian legal persons.
And also other stories, at least from the world of sports. Argentina's World Cup winning squad arrived home to a jubilant Buenos Aires in the early hours of Tuesday morning, with massive crowds lining the streets and cheering the champions' return. Captain Lionel Messi stepped off the plane first, holding the gold trophy aloft, followed by his triumphant team onto a red carpet at the airport, and he was greeted by reporters, officials, and a live band. As the team bus departed the airport, it was immediately swamped by cheering supporters dressed in the national colors of blue and white. Videos show the bus inching forward slowly behind a police escort and is surrounded by tens of thousands of people waving the Argentine flag and setting off firecrackers in the night. And that's about the size of the news tonight. But before we go, a recap of the highlights. A federal high court has declined application by DSS to order the arrest of CBN governor. Senate has confirmed appointment of Loretta Onochie as NDDC chairman. And on the foreign scene, we told you that the U.S. panel has called for insurrection charges against Trump. And that was Citizen FM 93.7 News at 6, as edited by Lawrence Omoite. To listen to us online, please visit citizenfm.ng. I am Didi, and to stay with us. Super Citizen at Sunset continues in a bit.
Citizen FM. Make we join our hearts to build.